Top of the show with Jake Sherman of Politico, where he writes, of course, the Politico Playbook with Anna Palmer and Daniel Littman, because he is right in the middle of this impeachment circus. Jake, I may play this clip a few times today. It's Professor Carlin of Stanford yesterday and what became a defining moment for this chaos that is the impeachment hearing. Cut number one.
So while the president can name his son Barron, he can't make him a baron.
What do you think of that comment, Jake Sherman?
I don't think it's great to invoke, I think it's bad to invoke a president's minor son. I don't think it's right. I think it was overall a minor part of the hearing for which she apologized. I'm not excusing it. It's just not something that she has. It's not it's something that obviously was a major component of the hearing, but in a hearing that lasted, however, 5-6 hours, it was one. To me, my view, it was just one line. It did not even come up. I'll be honest with you. Most of the, besides Matt Gaetz, who obviously was very exercised about this and talked about it, almost no Republicans were talking about it that I spoke to yesterday.
Well, you know that the universe that is Twitter immediately seized on, let's play it again for the audience. I know they've heard it, but I want to make sure they have the context.
So while the president can name his son Barron, he can't make him a baron.
All right, so the way it infused the entire ecosystem of Twitter told me it was a moment akin to the famous, what am I, a potted plant moment. Sometimes, or have you no decency, sir, sometimes very small moments define hearings. And what I thought upon reflection is that it was mean, it was undignified, it was backed by a boiling rage, but it was more than that. It was thoroughly authentic. And it revealed in a split second that venom is driving the hearings and underscores how little they have to do with other than TDS. I mean, it just said to me, that's like the perfect moment. It's the snapshot. It's the Lord Snowden moment, Jake. I don't know that Democrats want to admit it. In fact, I got some members of the resistance online very angry with me for paying attention to testimony under oath by an esteemed legal scholar. But that fury was revelatory to the middle of America that just much doesn't pay attention to this stuff.
Well, I will say that I'm curious. I don't think any of us have any idea how people have perceived this hearing. I really don't. I think that what we did at the top of Playbook today, which I thought was interesting, we put how each of the evening newses, which combined have 10 to 12 million viewers, how they portrayed the hearings, and ABC actually did bring up the Barron Trump comment, but all three of the network evening newses discussed the hearing and talked about how three legal scholars that impeachment was proper, but the Republican witness did not, which I thought was an interesting frame, and you could take away from that what you'd like. But I think we oftentimes get caught up in the stagecraft or individual moments, but none of that matters. There's very few people who watched 5 hours of this hearing yesterday, and even fewer who are going to remember that remark. But 20 million people watch the evening news. 20 million people watch the morning news in the morning. And even though it's a dying format, it's how people view these hearings, and it's how people consume this historic moment.
Jake, do you remember Potted Plant?
I do.
All right, that's what I'm talking about, because the three networks mean nothing to me, because 12 million people compared to 330 million people using social media and listening to talk radio means nothing to me. However, the ecosystem of the Beltway tried to protect itself from this last night by discounting and dismissing it. But I know how it works, and I know how a lily pond that reproduces once a day, it takes 29 days to fill half the pond and 1 day to fill it all. And this remark will dominate everything because it so perfectly summed up. It was so authentic. And so although there are 12 million people watching the evening news, there are 300 million Americans who know Barron. And also the clip of her anger. I mean, she's so angry when she's throwing down in other points. I think it defines, and it will, in fact, impact a great deal of people's reaction to this. And I also think that you'll get a denial of that today all day long from Democrats. They can't control Twitter, Jake. I'm sure you looked last night. It was everywhere.
I did. Yeah. I mean, listen. I don't. It definitely got attention. I don't. I actually take a different view on this whole thing, which is that people have their minds made up. There's very few people who are persuadable on this issue. People who don't like the president are gonna hate are gonna want him to be impeached and like the impeachment proceedings. People who like the president think it's a sham. Maybe there's 1 or 2% of persuadable people out there. And listen. I mean, I don't know what the difference is in the marginal difference in the substance of these hearings on the American people who are persuadable. So I really don't know what the impact is. And I thought, listen, it's a notable moment. There's no question about that. The president has, using the same guidelines, the president has mocked minor children before as well, or at least in one occasion. I'm not making an excuse. I'm just stating a fact. So, I mean, I understand the president says a lot of things. So everything he says gets fewer eyeballs and less attention. But I think that's what you're going to see a lot of people say today. And I honestly think, yes, for the people who don't like this hearing, for the people who think this process is a sham and like the president, this will be one of the things they remember. There's no question about that.
Now, Jake, what's interesting, you and I are friendly and have been for a long time, so you will appreciate this, I hope. I'm not beating up on Jake here. There's an old saying in the law, it's not my dog, it didn't bite you, besides you kicked him first. In the last minute, you said it didn't matter, people have made their minds up, the president has done it before. In other words, do you remember the scene? Are you a Star Wars guy?
Not really, no.
Do you remember the Clone Wars where there's this big arena where all the Jedi are getting massacred by the clones? All right. Yeah. So the Clone Wars, this is a scene from the Clone Wars where all the impeachment defenders, and guess what? Yoda's not coming to help them. They're in a circle and they're being surrounded by the American people.
Because I am not, there's no question that it's bad to rag on the minor son of a president. There's no, forget even rag on, bringing him up. That is something that is bad to me. So let's leave it right there, and I will say with a lid on that, it is bad. It is not good. It's long been bad. It was bad when people did it to the Obamas. It's bad when people did it to the Bushes, even though I don't think they were ever minors during the Bush presidency, or maybe they were. I can't recall. Moving on from that, I do believe that for a lot of people, it was a minor part of the hearing. For some people,
but I got to say, not just minor. Your colleague Blake, for example, Blake Hausenhell, he's chirping back at me 23 minutes ago, just as the framers argued you can't impeach someone if you're angry about their conduct. That's intended to be snarky and ironic, and Blake often can be snarky and ironic. All it shows me is desperation. The roof fell in, and people are claiming that they like the rain that they're feeling. And it just is one of those moments where, like the Brendan Sullivan moment, I'm not a potted plant. D.C. is reluctant to let their narrative go. They have a plan, they want to execute it, and it's not working. And Adam Schiff is begging us, and Jerry Nadler is begging us, but play this again. This is the hearing, cut number 1.
So while the president can name his son Barron, he can't make him a baron.
And it's not because she brings up the president's son and a minor. It's because she's so angry. It just tears the mask off this charade. Last word to you, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't defend D.C. I can't defend every reporter. I can't defend. My view is that it's not good to bring up a president's minor son, but this is a 5-hour hearing, and yes, it might stick out for some people. This is a long hearing in which a lot of substance was discussed. We haven't even discussed the fact that Nancy Pelosi, in less than 3 hours, is going to give what she has said is an update on the impeachment inquiry. So we're going to know much more about where this is heading and when in the next couple hours.
You know what? It's done. I don't care if she goes on and produces new evidence. It's over after yesterday. And it was over before it got started. But they knew why they didn't want Nadler to touch this. It's because, and their choice of witnesses shows a profound incompetence at the heart. If you want people to believe it's a fair proceeding, you've got to make it a fair proceeding, not a law school faculty meeting. Jake Sherman, Politico Playbook. Go and get it, America.